Good evening. It's currently 9 p.m., and you're listening to the 9 o'clock Meltdown, showcasing favorite and up-and-coming local artists with a relaxed, coffee house vibe. Plus, interviews, live studio performances, and more. It's all here on 91.3 KUWS Superior. Now, here's your host for the evening, Simply C.
Hi, everybody. I'm your host, Simply C, and I am on the phone with Greg Jacobs. He is a storyteller of sorts, but he sings about the birds and the bees. Hello, sir. Well,
Hi,
not
how you doing,
necessarily.
Crystal?
Not necessarily the birds and the bees in that format. And now, where are you calling from?
Well, right now I'm actually in Western New York. I'm on the road traveling, doing some storytelling adventures here, and so it's been a nice summer for traveling around and entertaining people at state parks and nature centers and different venues, and it's been fun.
Mm-hmm. And now you just you made the rounds up to Amazing Grace in Duluth, Minnesota here not too long ago. And how was your experience up here?
It was great. Oh, I love the North, and having grown up in Michigan and lived up in Marquette, Michigan for 8 years, I really prefer the North Country and worked in northern Wisconsin for a while, and so I've actually love getting back whenever I can, and love getting out and being a kayaker as well. It gives me an opportunity to get my kayak out and kind of explore a little bit and see the country again. So I love being back whenever I can.
All right, sounds wonderful. And now you have a couple stories in store for us. Do you want to tell me a little bit about how you got into kind of the storytelling?
Sure, absolutely. Well, I was kind of a product of the 80s. Having grown up in the 80s, a time when rap was just kind of coming out on the scene, but it was a lot different back then when Will Smith coming on the scene, and it was just kind of a fun thing. But and then having grown up with Dr. Seuss as well, and I always just kind of had a love for those the rhyming poetry and those kind of things. So having grown up with those, I started kind of writing stories, but in a rhyming form, and just started doing those kind of on a side basis, doing them for special events and those kind of things. And this summer I thought, well, this would be a great time just to get out and just to share these with people on a grander scale and just see what happens. So.
All right, sounds great. And now you're a naturalist as well.
Mm-hmm. That's correct. Mm-hmm.
All right. And so does that kind of take you on travels everywhere else, or are you kind of teaching naturalist things to other people, or what does your job entail?
Yeah, as a naturalist, basically we kind of bring the outdoors to people and kind of hopefully open people's eyes to the wonders of the outdoors and those things that I think a lot of people overlook in your everyday life. So, and those kind of jobs, there's jobs out there, but it's hard to make a living at. So people that are naturalists a lot of times end up kind of job hopping a little. The National Park Service, the Forest Service have different locations. So I've been kind of traveling around to different areas, but just love being outside. And again, this the storytelling and the poetry gives me kind of an extra opportunity to bring those natural events and those wonderful things of nature to people in a little different form.
Mm-hmm. All right, sounds wonderful. Do you have a story for us you'd like to share?
Sure, absolutely. You bet. Yeah, the first one I have here is kind of one based on one of the things I really like to teach to people are just insects and the amazing world of insects. And so the first one I have here is actually called The Beetle Named Joe. So, way up in the woods lives a beetle named Joe, about 1.5 miles, as flies the old crow. He lives in the log of a fallen birch tree. It's been there for 1 or 2 years, maybe 3. The log is quite long and wide at both ends, leaving plenty of room for Joe and his friends. On one end of the log lives a cricket named Ted, who chirps every night after Joe goes to bed. In the middle of the log lives a stink bug named Jack, who is emerald green with red stripes on his back. 3 tiny insects, this log is a home, and they venture by day to eat and to roam. They hike to the meadow to visit the ants, where they munch on sweet clover and delicious green plants. On nights that grow cold, they tell stories and huddle, and on hot summer days, they swim laps in a puddle. Then one sunny day, after dining on rye, they lay on a rock, staring up at the sky. They spoke of their lives and the things they had seen, of their wooded log home and their meadows so green. "I wonder," said Joe, "just what else is out there. For this world must have fabulous wonders to share. What fun it would be to go out on a quest. We've seen what's in our land. Let's go see the rest. Tomorrow at dawn, why don't we begin? We could even be back before autumn sets in." But as it turned out, and to Joe's great surprise, the other two insects did not think this wise. "I believe," said Ted, "that our place is right here. We have all that we need, and with nothing to fear. But abroad are fierce creatures who cause me great fright, and monsters who will swallow you up in one bite. The world is a dangerous place," added Jack, "and those who go out quite rarely come back." "It is true that adventurers have danger," said Joe, "but I believe it is well worth the risk even so. Your concerns I respect and indeed understand, but I'd still like to see what lies out in this land. So tomorrow at dawn I am going to set out to learn what this great land can teach me about." So the very next day, as the sun lit the sky, Joe set off on his way as his friends waved goodbye. He could hardly contain the excitement he felt, which caused any feelings of danger to melt. He decided his journey would lead to the west, for the sun would help out with direction, he guessed. He hiked and he marveled at the sights that were new, until finally a small pond had come into view. He walked to the edge and climbed up on a rock, but was not quite prepared for the following shock. To Joe it was truly a sight to behold. There were iris of purple and lilies of gold. There was boneset and white, and orange jewelweed, green leaves and browns of the cattail seed. This pond was fantastic, as he'd never seen one. Its surface sparkled bright in the light of the sun. "This place is amazingly beautiful," said Joe, to which the rock on his left added simply, "Quite so." So startled was Joe that he fell over flat. He lay and stared up where the talking rock sat. Yet this was no rock, but a creature, no doubt, with a tail, 4 legs, and a head sticking out. "Well, good morning," said Joe, recovering quite well. "You surprised me a bit, as I'm sure you could tell. I have met none like you in my lifetime so far. Could you tell me what kind of a creature you are?" "Yes, of course," said the creature. "I don't mind at all, and I apologize if I was the cause of your fall. What I am is a turtle," he said with a smile, "and a turtle is a thing that is called a reptile. This shell is my body and part of my home, so I must take it with me wherever I roam. Most turtles love water, as I love this pond. It's a place where I've grown quite particularly fond." "Outstanding," said Joe, "for I have a shell too. It has been a great pleasure to have spoken to you." "The pleasure is mine," said the turtle with pride. Then he lunged out at Joe with his mouth open wide. Pure instinct alone had saved Joe by a hair. He sprang to the side with no moment to spare. "Have I done something bad to offend you?" asked Joe. "If I've said something wrong, I would sure like to know." "Your pardon," said the turtle, "but that is the deal. To a turtle, an insect is a very fine meal. We greatly respect and appreciate you, but to live it is something a turtle must do." Joe said, "I see now your reason and need to attack, and maybe someday I will make a fine snack. But there's much in this world that I'd still like to see, and my friends back at home will be waiting for me. So though it may be to your utter dismay, I really must be heading off on my way." Joe gazed at the pond for a few moments more, then set off once again from its colorful shore. "Farewell," called the turtle as Joe headed west. "I hope you find marvelous things on your quest." Joe walked for 3 hours through dense wooded scrub, then stopped to have lunch on a blueberry shrub. He sipped some rainwater from an acorn's lost cap, then stretched out in the sun for a short little nap. When he woke, it was to yet another surprise, for staring at him was a large pair of eyes. Better safe over sorry was Joe's strong belief, so he sprang to his feet and dove under a leaf. He peeked from its edge with great caution and care to find the eyes and their owner were still standing there. It was an insect like him, but 5 times as tall, and though having large eyes, its head was quite small. It had mandibles that looked like they'd cause a sharp bite, and 2 of its 6 legs were folded upright. "I say," said the insect, "now that's rather rude. You won't make new friends with that attitude." "I'm sorry," said Joe, and quickly crawled out. "But this is the first time I've traveled this route. This land and its creatures are equally new, and so far I've not met an insect like you." "That," said the creature, "is quite clear to see. Otherwise, you wouldn't be talking to me. For I am a mantis, and a carnivore, too, and carnivores will eat other insects like you. It's been an honor to know you while you were alive, but a mantis must eat if it is to survive." Then it sprang out at Joe with its sharp upper claws, followed closely behind by its wide-open jaws. Joe shrieked in surprise, as any bug would, then scrambled straight forward as fast as he could. The mantis' front legs had got nothing but air, for Joe had run under the other 2 pair. He scurried for the cover of a small rocky bluff, but as fast as he was not fast enough. On this day, Joe was learning a great many things, and now he discovered that mantids have wings. For straight to his front dropped its ominous shape, which blocked off Joe's only good chance for escape. But as Joe wondered if he was white or dark meat, he spied a dark hole in the ground near his feet. And just as the mantis lunged out for his prize, Joe dove in the hole, which was just the right size. He slid and he tumbled down a long earthen chute, then came to a halt on a monstrous tree root. He sat still and listened for signs of a chase, but the mantis hadn't followed him down to this place. He sat for a minute to reason things through. He could not stay here, but what could he do? He could not go back up the way he had come. He may be a beetle, but he wasn't that dumb. And unless his 2 trusty antennae were wrong, he could sense that this tunnel went further along. Joe rolled to his feet and brushed off the dirt. He must now be cautious and extra alert. He inched his way forward through the tunnel's thick gloom, and the air was as still as a dung beetle's tomb. The tunnel stretched on for what seemed like a mile, and Joe had sensed no signs of life all the while. But then far up ahead he could see a faint light. Joe felt quite relieved that an end was in sight. He quickened his pace as he smelled the fresh air. His need to see sunshine was now too much to bear. Soon he was staring straight up through a hole, which was probably made by a mouse or a vole. But then from one side came a frightening sound, causing Joe once again to dive straight to the ground. He looked up to find that the source of the roar was a sleeping field mouse with a powerful snore. He knew that to most mice he was not a snack, but a shrew at one time tried to eat his friend Jack. So he climbed toward the light without making a sound, and soon found himself once again above ground. He stood in the sunshine and brushed off the dust, as his eyes took a moment or 2 to adjust. He was surrounded by grass of a strange-colored green, but it was not like any wild grass he had seen. It grew close together and was not very tall, and no other plants could be found here at all. No yarrow or bluestem or delicious plantain, no clover or sorrel or daisy fleabane. This place was not even remotely diverse, and with no plants to eat, it could not look much worse. But as Joe tried to figure out just where he was suddenly aware of an awfully loud buzz. It was a noise not unlike what a bumblebee might make, but loud, and the ground had now started to shake. Joe just had to see what could make such a sound, so he climbed up the grass for a quick look around. The grass stretched as far as his 2 eyes could see, but the loud roaring buzz was not made by a bee. It was a wide, monstrous beast with a shiny red shell. It belched out blue smoke with an awfully foul smell. It was pushed by a creature standing 200 beetles high. It walked on 2 legs with its head in the sky. It was headed straight for him, and to Joe's great dismay, it was now looming up just a few feet away. To Joe it appeared there was no place to hide, for it chewed up the grass, spitting it off to one side. Joe shrieked out in fright in his small beetle voice, and knew that to live he had only one choice. The shell on his back quickly split open wide, and 2 pairs of wings folded out from inside. And just as most beetles are able to do, Joe sprang straight up into the air, and he flew. All around him the earth seemed to shred and to tear, as Joe flew as fast as he could through the air. Several days later, and back at the log, Joe's friends sat staring through thick morning fog. "Where do you think Joe is right now?" wondered Jack. "Do you think he'll be able to find his way back? I'm trying hard not to think thoughts that are grim, but I sure do hope nothing has happened to him." "I'm certain," said Ted, "he'll return safe and sound, for Joe is quite smart and the fastest around. I'm sure he'll be back to the log before long, for he promised to help me to learn a new song." "And so I shall do," said a voice from below, and standing before them was none other than Joe. At first it did not look like the friend they had known. He was roughed up a bit and seemed to have grown. "I made it," Joe said, with a wink and a shrug, then climbed up and gave them a 4-legged hug. "Welcome back," the 2 insects excitedly said. "Did you find the adventure you wanted?" asked Ted. "I did so indeed," said Joe with a smile, "and I shall tell you the tale in a short little while. But first I'd like only to lay down my head, and in no other place than my own cozy bed. For although quite rewarding, the road has been rough, and for this year at least, I have had quite enough. But no matter how any long journey ends, there's nothing quite like coming home to your friends." Then without further word, Joe walked off toward his room, while noting that the wintergreen plants were in bloom. He crawled to his bed and collapsed in a heap, and with a smile on his face, he was soon fast asleep. And that's a beetle named Joe.
A very, very cute story. I'm on the phone with Greg Jacobs. He's a naturalist and a storyteller, and you kind of take the more artistic approach to informing people about nature.
Mhm. Yeah, I would say that would be accurate. Yeah.
Well, that's a very cute story, and you have many, many more. And now, do you have any of these recorded? Do you have a CD out, or are you thinking about having a CD out?
I do. A couple of years ago, a friend had helped me put some of these on CD, and we kind of used that as a way of getting some out. And I did kind of one set of them, and never really put out any more. Right now, I'm actually working on a book on one of my poems. I'm working with an artist that has been wanting to do this kind of thing for a while, and so we kind of teamed up, and we're about, I would say, a third of the way through illustrating one of these, and hopefully get it out there in another format besides CDs. So.
All right, wonderful, absolutely wonderful. And now, if people are kind of interested in picking up a CD or this book that's coming out, where can they do that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, right now, like I say, this my storytelling venture is kind of new. I've been doing it on the side for a while, and so hopefully in the near future, I'm going to be actually having a website here where people can reach that.
Okay.
I just started a new Facebook page where people can follow along on my journeys if they want. That's Jack Pine Jake, Jack Pine, one word, and Jake, another word.
Okay.
And they can find me that way. And otherwise, they can even reach me by email if they want, and that's jackpinejake@gmail.com. So,
All right,
so either way.
good.
Yeah.
And you even put a little rhyme on that one, too.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And now you kind of got your influences from the 80s and when, rap and kind of the whole rhyming poetry scheme of things were really, really huge. And you've kind of carried that throughout this whole time. Have you ever thought of, doing something else, maybe just doing the poetry or just doing, an illustrated book?
That's kind of what I would like to work towards. Yeah, this is it's something that I've had great response to, and right now just getting it out and performing it for people, and a lot of people tell me, if you had a book, I would buy that right now. So, so it is something that I really enjoy. I would love to put a book out, and at the same time, I really love interacting with people and and bringing that performance aspect out of it too. So if I could combine those two, that would be wonderful. So that's, I guess, what I would really like to work towards.
All right.
Is doing that. Yep.
All right. Sounds wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Greg, for calling in and sharing at least one of your stories with us this afternoon. I hope to hear many, many more from you. And you sent me a couple MP3s of yours, so I will do my best to get those out and for people to hear and maybe throw them on a couple CDs for some people.
Great. Well, I appreciate your time.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, and enjoy your time in New York, sir.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
All right, and I hope to see you back up here in the Northland very soon.
I hope to be up very soon. Yeah, thanks a lot.
All right, sounds good. Have a good day.
Thanks, you too.
Bye.
Bye.